Off the coast of California, a torpedo-shaped submarine with no crew inside it is getting ready to travel 1,000 miles underwater, completely on its own. Two companies just won the contract to build it, and the Navy is calling it the future of undersea warfare. So today, I'm asking the question everyone should be asking. What exactly did the US Navy just buy? And why does it need a drone that can cross an ocean without a single sailor on board? That's the headline recently. The Navy's Defense Innovation Unit, or DIU, picked two companies, Kongsberg and Oceaneering, to design a brand new extra-large uncrewed underwater vehicle under a program called CAMP, short for Combat Autonomous Maritime Platform. This isn't a toy. This isn't a research experiment sitting in a lab. This is a real acquisition program, with a real deadline and a real number attached to it. 1,000 nautical miles of range, underwater, with no one steering it. I want you to sit with that number for a second, because numbers like this get thrown around a lot in defense news, and most people scroll right past them. 1,000 nautical miles is roughly the distance from San Diego to Hawaii. Now imagine a machine doing that trip completely submerged, without surfacing, without a satellite link guiding it turn by turn, and without anyone physically inside deciding what to do if something goes wrong. That's the scale we're talking about. Let me back up and explain how we got here, because this drone isn't coming out of nowhere. The Navy, and honestly the whole world's navies, have been building toward this moment for almost a decade, and I want to walk you through every piece of it so you actually understand what you're looking at. Back in 2019, Boeing won a contract to build something called Orca, the Navy's first extra-large uncrewed undersea vehicle, or XLUUV. Orca looks like a submarine, because in almost every practical sense it is one. It's 85 feet long, weighs 85 tons, and runs on a hybrid power system, a mix of batteries and diesel generators. That combination gives it something almost no other underwater drone has: range. Orca can travel up to 6,500 nautical miles on a single mission, and it can stay out at sea for months at a time. Here's the part that matters most for understanding why the Navy wants these machines at all. Orca has a mission bay, over 30 feet long, that can carry up to 8 tons of equipment. Think of it like a cargo hold, similar to how a delivery truck has a separate space in the back from its engine and cab. The Navy can load that space with sensors, sonar equipment, or naval mines, then send Orca into dangerous water to drop them off, all without risking a single sailor. And because it launches straight from a pier, it doesn't need a support ship to carry it out to sea. It just drives off the dock and disappears underwater. The first Orca test vehicle went into the water back in 2023, and by early 2026, Boeing had delivered its second full-size unit, called XLE-2. But the program hasn't been fast. It was originally supposed to deliver 5 vehicles by the end of 2022. That slipped for years. Now, though, something has changed. In the Navy's most recent shipbuilding plan, from May 2026, Orca stopped being an experiment and became an actual purchase order. 2 vehicles funded for fiscal year 2027, and 16 total planned through 2031, backed by over $1 billion. Let's pause here, because that shift, from prototype to production, is the real story hiding underneath this week's headline. If the Navy already has Orca, why build a second, brand new underwater drone through the CAMP program? The answer comes down to speed and competition. CAMP isn't run by the traditional Navy acquisition bureaucracy. It's run by the Defense Innovation Unit, a Pentagon office built specifically to pull commercial technology into the military faster than normal defense contracts allow. Instead of spending a decade designing one vehicle from scratch the way Orca did, CAMP is trying to take mature, already working technology and adapt it for combat use in a fraction of the time. That's exactly what Kongsberg and Oceaneering bring to the table. Kongsberg is a Norwegian defense and maritime technology company with decades of experience building autonomous underwater systems for both militaries and the offshore oil industry. Oceaneering, based in Houston, has spent years building underwater robots for deep-sea operations, the kind of work where a vehicle has to function perfectly at extreme depth, with no possibility of a diver stepping in to fix it. Together, their job under this contract is to design the CAMP XLUUV's concept, its overall architecture, and how its parts fit together, emphasizing something the Navy has struggled with before: modularity. That means the vehicle needs to accept different payloads and mission equipment easily, without a total redesign every time the mission changes. The team is expected to deliver that design by the end of this quarter. Here's why this matters strategically, and I promise this connects back to that 1,000-mile number. A drone that can only travel 100 or 200 miles has to be launched close to where it's needed, usually from a ship or a submarine, which puts crewed vessels closer to danger. A drone that can travel 1,000 miles on its own can be launched from a safe, friendly port and still reach a contested area, like a strait, a choke point, or waters near an adversary's coastline, without ever putting a manned ship in harm's way. I know what a lot of people picture when they hear combat submarine drone. Torpedo tubes, missile silos, something out of a movie. The reality is more precise, and honestly more interesting. Publicly, the Navy has not confirmed that Orca or the camp vehicle carries fixed weapons like torpedoes or missiles. Instead, their combat power comes from what they carry in that modular bay. The clearest confirmed mission is mine warfare. Back in 2022, the Navy's own program manager for unmanned maritime systems said Orca's payload section is built specifically to deploy naval mines covertly, without needing a submarine or surface ship to get close. Engineers have described a concept called Hammerhead, a payload configuration with roughly 12 angled tubes fitted inside the vehicle's hangar space, itself about 20 feet of the vehicle's total 38-foot payload section. The idea is similar to an older Cold War mine called Captor, a mine that sits on the seafloor, waits, and only activates when it detects an enemy submarine passing overhead. Except Hammerhead is built for today's sensors and networks. Beyond mining, these vehicles are built for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance work, seabed mapping, and what the Navy calls expeditionary support, basically. Quietly setting up sensors or equipment in contested waters before a crisis even starts. Picture a choke point like the Taiwan Strait or waters near a naval base. Instead of sending a Virginia-class attack submarine, which cost billions of dollars and carries a crew of well over 100 sailors, the Navy can send an uncrewed vehicle to quietly gather the same picture. If something goes wrong, the Navy loses a machine, not people. That's really the entire philosophy behind this shift. Let me put it in plain terms. A Virginia-class submarine is a weapon and a home for its crew at the same time. It fights and it protects the people inside it. An XLUUV isn't trying to replace that. It's trying to take on the jobs that are long, tedious, and dangerous, the months of quiet watching, the risky trips into mined or heavily monitored water, so that crewed submarines can be saved for missions that truly require a human being making split-second decisions. Now here's where the story gets bigger, because the US isn't the only country racing to build this kind of machine. And honestly, one of America's closest allies might already be ahead. Australia's Ghost Shark program started back in 2022, a joint effort between Anduril, the Royal Australian Navy, and Australia's own Defence Science Group. The goal was aggressive from day one: build 3 working prototypes in just 3 years. They actually pulled it off ahead of schedule, delivering all 3 by 2025. The first prototype, called Dive LD, is about 19 feet long, weighs under 3 tons, and can dive to nearly 20,000 feet, roughly 6,000 meters, while staying underwater for up to 10 days at a stretch. But the real vehicle, the one Australia is now buying by the dozen, is the production version called Dive XL, and it's a completely different scale. Picture something roughly the size of a school bus, 40 feet long or more. In September 2025, Australia's government approved a fleet purchase worth 1.7 billion Australian dollars, about 1.1 billion US dollars, for dozens of these vehicles, entering service starting in early 2026. The first production unit rolled off the line at a brand new manufacturing facility in Sydney in late 2025, and it's currently going through sea trials ahead of formal delivery. Here's the detail that should catch your attention if you're comparing this to the US program. Ghost Shark uses something called a flooded hull design. Instead of a sealed pressurized tube like a normal submarine, the whole outer shell fills with seawater, and only small waterproof pods inside protect the sensitive electronics, batteries, and payloads. Think of it less like a submarine and more like a skeleton with vital organs sealed inside separate pockets. Because there's no need to keep the entire hull dry and pressurized for a human crew, the vehicle can dive deeper, run quieter, and go longer on the same amount of stored energy. Ghost Shark also runs on something called Lattice, an AI-driven software system built by Anduril that handles navigation, sensor fusion, and mission decision-making without a person actively steering it in real time. And critically, Anduril has openly pitched this exact vehicle to the US Navy as a faster, cheaper alternative to Orca, with American-built payload modules already in testing. That's an important thread, because it means the country racing hardest against Kongsberg and Oceaneering for the camp contract might not be a rival nation. It might be an ally, competing to sell the Pentagon its own drone first. Quick question for you. Does it surprise you that one of America's closest allies might be ahead of the US Navy on this specific technology? Let me know in the comments. Britain isn't sitting still either. In December 2025, the Royal Navy took delivery of a new uncrewed submarine called XV Excalibur, a 19-ton experimental vehicle built by a company called M-Subs in Plymouth. What makes Excalibur remarkable isn't just its size, it's who was driving it. During a major military exercise, Excalibur was remotely operated from a control station in Australia, proving that a single crew on the other side of the planet could direct an uncrewed submarine sailing thousands of miles away. Excalibur only recently began its own sea trials, in July 2026, so it's still earlier in development than Ghost Shark, but it shows the same pattern. Every major navy is trying to solve the same problem at roughly the same time. And then there's China. According to testimony given to a US government commission in March 2026, Chinese state shipyards are developing their own extra-large underwater drone, reportedly around 130 feet long, longer than Orca, with a possible range near 11,000 miles. That's more than 10 times the range the US Navy is asking Kongsberg and Oceaneering to hit with camp. Analysts believe this Chinese vehicle could carry naval mines, sensors, and possibly even smaller drones of its own, launched from inside it like a mothership. That's the real backdrop to the camp contract. This isn't the US building a flashy new toy in isolation. It's one move in a much larger, quiet competition happening under the surface of the ocean between multiple major navies, and the country that masters cheap, reliable, long-range underwater autonomy first gains a real advantage in any future undersea standoff. Here's where I have to be honest with you, because a channel like this only works if we don't oversell the hype. The biggest obstacle isn't whether these drones are a good idea. It's whether they can be trusted to work without anyone watching. An autonomous underwater vehicle on a months-long mission has no reliable way to talk home. Radio doesn't travel through water, and sound-based communication is slow and can give away its position. That means these machines have to navigate, avoid hazards, and manage system failures completely on their own, using instruments like inertial navigation, which tracks motion and direction using onboard sensors instead of satellites, and Doppler sensors, which measure speed and drift by bouncing sound waves off the seafloor. And there's a harder question underneath that. If one of these drones is carrying weapons like mines, who is responsible for the decisions it makes with no human in the loop for weeks at a time? That's not a political question, it's an operational and legal one that the Navy has to solve before any of these systems can be trusted in a real conflict. The Orca program itself is proof this isn't simple. It was supposed to deliver 5 vehicles by the end of 2022. As of early 2026, only 3 test and production vehicles existed. Building the machine is hard. Building the trust to actually use it in combat is harder. If you're a veteran watching this, especially anyone who served on submarines or in unmanned systems, I'd genuinely love to hear what you think this technology gets right, and what it still gets wrong. Drop it in the comments. So where does this actually leave the US Navy? Right now, it's running 2 undersea drone tracks at once. Orca, the Boeing-built giant, is finally moving from prototype into real production, with 16 units planned through 2031. And Camp, the brand new Kongsberg and Oceaneering design, is trying to move faster and cheaper, using DIU's streamlined process to get a working modular 1,000-mile vehicle designed within months rather than years. Both programs point toward the same future, a Navy where crewed submarines like the Virginia-class handle the missions that truly require human judgment, while a growing fleet of uncrewed vehicles absorbs the long, quiet, and dangerous work, watching choke points, mapping the seafloor, and laying sensors in waters no one wants to risk a crew in. It's not a replacement for the submarine force. It's an expansion of what the undersea Navy can actually do at the same time, in more places, with fewer sailors put directly in harm's way. If you want to understand what's actually happening beneath the surface of naval warfare, not the headlines, but the real engineering and strategy behind it, subscribe to Shipline. We go deeper into this stuff than almost anyone else on this platform, and there's a lot more coming on the future of the undersea fleet.